moving a little closer. There we go. So I guess we're going live. I guess we're live now. Check 1, 2. Okay, cool. So yeah, check. You know the microphone that's as tall as I am. So good morning, everybody.
Here again.
Yep, here I am again.
I know.
So this morning, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to Wisconsin. So by show of hands, who's been to Wisconsin? You? So,
Yes, man. 3 days. Yeah, man.
Someone's excited.
God damn.
So yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about Wisconsin. And yes, before you say anything, it is known for cheese. It's known for a certain sports team that someone's excited about. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started, shall we?
Yeah, we were now already.
So let's start off with the flag, shall we? So obviously you have the flag that says Wisconsin, 1848. That's when the state was established. So you also have these two men over here. This man's a rancher. This man's a miner. He would most likely be a coal miner because that's where a lot of the coal and a lot of gold would also be. So if you've heard of the sports team 49ers, well, it wouldn't sound as catchy if they were called the 48ers. Now would they? So yeah, man.
So what the 148?
Yeah, that's when it was established.
Oh.
That's when it became a state, 1848. Did I say 19? I meant 18. So right here you have this little banner that says forward because they're always looking forward. Then you have this little crest. You have plow. You have the miner's tools. You have the anchor. You have the hammer. They symbolize the working class. And you have this little stack right here. What many people say, I guess, silver. Right over here is a cornucopia. It's basically a horn basket where you hold all your fruits and vegetables. Symbolizes fertility and prosperity. And then you have this little, well, I guess you could say also a little banner, I guess you could say. It says, E pluribus unum. It means out of many came one.
What's that mean, Jeremy?
It means many people came together to be one community. That's it.
But, Jeremy,
Yeah.
I have a question. My brother played basketball.
In Wisconsin? All right. So we have some people from Wisconsin. So like I said, you have this little flag right here. The blue is obviously the color of the United States, often referred to as the Yankee blue. So I guess you could say that this is a totally American flag for one particular state. So there you go. And then you have this little beaver right up here. It's one of the few animals that you'll find up in Wisconsin. So let's move on to the next slide. Hang on a second. So ladies and gentlemen, this is where Wisconsin is located.
Yeah.
So Wisconsin is bordered by Minnesota, Michigan, Iowa, and Illinois. But as you can tell, you have the Great Lakes over here. Who's been to the Great Lakes? By a show of hands. Nobody? One of you? Have you been to the Great Lakes?
Yeah.
Yeah? So the thing you need to know about Wisconsin is that it's surrounded by water and land. So, oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, this little part is Michigan as well.
That's confusing, kind of.
Yeah, trust
For
me.
some people, I would imagine.
Yep. And so you have Wisconsin, and you also have, well, right over here is Lake Superior, right up here. So you have these Great Lakes. This is where a lot of the people were inhabiting for the longest of time. And what you have to remember is that wherever there's water, there's people. There always has to be. We'll move on to the next slide. So the capital is Madison.
Yep. I mean, that is.
But the largest city is Milwaukee. So Matt, have you been to Milwaukee?
Right.
Yeah? You been to Milwaukee? So yeah. So Milwaukee will be somewhere here. Madison will be somewhere in the middle. So let's move on to the next slide. Hold on a sec. We're having some technical difficulties here. Oh, maybe not. So this is what Wisconsin used to look like on a map. What you have to understand is that Wisconsin, for the longest time, was inhabited by Native American groups. They would have included the Iroquois Nation. They would have included some of the other Great Lakes nations. So yeah, it was back in 1848. That's when people discovered gold here and in California. But that's a whole other story because you have the little gold rush. But the gist of it is that people started to flock here, and they started looking for opportunities to strike it rich quick because they found gold, they found silver, they found different precious metals that were found in the ground, that were found in caves and mountains. So there was a very good chance that if you found a gold nugget that could fit in the palm of your hand, you could make a lot of money. They say that 1 pound of gold was worth $1,000, which in today's money would have been 5 times more than that, probably, adjusting for inflation. So what Wisconsin had gone over through the years, a lot of changes from just being a territory into entering statehood. It played a huge role in the American Civil War as the Underground Railroad, where you had escaped slaves going into this little territory over here. And that was years after it became a state, because keep in mind the Civil War was from 61 to 1865. So it was a 4-year protracted Civil War. And right now it's known for a lot of things. It's known for cheese, it's known for a certain sports team. We're not there yet, so keep the booing to yourself. When we get to the next slides, then you can boo as much as you like. I really don't care. You too.
Yeah, you'd be nice, Matt.
So you're probably wondering where the name Wisconsin comes from. It comes from an Algonquin word, which I'm going to apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce it. Wisconsin. But we don't know what the actual meaning of the word is. Some people say it means things like red stone place, where the water gather, or the great rock. We don't know. So it could be up for interpretation, and we could debate about it all we like. So can we move on to the next slide? So remember when I said it's known for the Great Lakes? So here is Wisconsin, somewhere over here. You have Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Huron, Erie, Ontario. But it's probably better known for Lake Superior, which is the largest lake of the Great Lakes. So Wisconsin would be somewhere about here. So let's take a look more on the next slide. This is also Lake Superior. This is just one part of it. So if you ever go to Lake Superior, it's going to feel like an entire sea or an ocean, but it's not, I promise. It's just one big lake. So the slide that you're seeing here is just one of the northern areas of the lake. So let's move on to the next one.
Pretty picture, though.
Has anyone been to Milwaukee? You said you've been to Milwaukee?
I did.
Yep. What'd you think of Milwaukee? So. Are you serious? So. I would like to go to Milwaukee.
Well, how old was he? How old were you when you were there?
I never go that way. I go with me and that.
Uh-huh. Okay. So like I said, Milwaukee is the largest city in Wisconsin, but it's not the capital. That would be Madison. So if you go to Milwaukee today, it is probably one of the more well-known cities. It's also the setting for TV shows like Happy Days. Has anyone seen Happy Days? What about Laverne and Shirley? Yep. That's where the shows take place, in Milwaukee. So anyone like the Fonz, you'll see it here. So, yep. It's also one of the more cultural center type of cities, kind of like our version of LA. So let's move on to the next one. Oh yeah, speaking of which, so Biggie, you said you've seen these shows before? Which show did you like better?
Happy Days.
I would have said that too. Yeah, you like Happy Days?
I do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I do like Happy
Very
Days.
popular shows, I'm pretty
I
sure.
haven't seen Laverne and Shirley as much, so I can't give an opinion. Really.
Yeah, Laverne and Shirley was a spin-off show of Happy Days.
Oh,
That's the thing that people probably don't know.
Happy
I
Days?
didn't.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular spin-off show. I think these shows are what put Milwaukee on the map on most people's minds. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, now you can start the booing. Let it out. Let it out. Yeah.
My cousin likes it.
Yeah, well, apparently these people don't like Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Don't say boo.
I see you.
Did you get it out of your system yet? So, Green Bay Packers, one of the more well-known sports teams in Wisconsin. Yes, I got it. Yeah. So, it is one of the more successful small-market professional teams. They're one of those small-town sports teams that made it.
Yeah, they're real big. That.
Yeah.
They're real big.
And as much as I know you guys don't like the Green Bay Packers, may I show some accolades? I'm reading some
They
stats.
kind of have to, you know.
So these guys won 13 NFL championships. Thought you said you got it out of your system. I guess not.
I didn't know you were doing that.
First two AFL NFL championship games, which includes Super Bowls 1 and 2, Super Bowls 31, and amongst another Super Bowl in recent history.
What?
So yeah, I'm glad we got it out of our system. Green Bay Packers, one of the more famous sports teams in Wisconsin. Yeah, I know. Because we're not in Colorado anymore.
I do.
Hey, don't look at me. We're going all over the country.
Where are you going next week?
Oh, that'll be a surprise for you. I'm not saying anything. That would ruin the surprise. Let's move on to the next slide. Basketball.
Not yet. Yeah.
Anyone a fan of the Bucks?
There we go. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching at home, I guess we got over the booing and now we're going with the cheering.
Look what team.
Milwaukee Bucks, one of the more famous sports teams in Wisconsin in the field of basketball.
Matt, that's my
Yep.
team. It's my team.
Oh,
My home.
So they won 2 championship games, one in 1971 and one in 2021. Last year, ladies and gentlemen. So I know you may not like the Bucks, but you gotta give them props. 2 championships is nothing to sneeze at. Yeah.
You got one team. People team.
But these are just 2 that people would know about.
You're Milwaukee Blues.
I know,
Team.
but are they amongst the top?
You're Blues.
Mhm.
Yeah, Milwaukee Blues.
Let's move on to the next slide. Anyone hungry?
Oh!
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Yes.
Hey, fish. This is for you.
yep. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
I don't know.
these are bratwurst sausages.
Those are kind of strong for me.
Yeah, well, they're very popular in Wisconsin.
I can eat them, but not often, I don't think, because I get kind of strong.
Yep. So if you ever go to Wisconsin and you want a hot dog, well, you might as well get a bratwurst. Yeah. When
Matt,
So when immigrants came here to the U.S. from Europe, the Germans brought over their traditions and their cuisines. Bratwurst was one of them. So if they didn't bring over beer, they brought over bratwurst. Who knows? Maybe they might have cooked it with beer. Who knows? Just saying. So
Probably did sometimes.
speaking of food, let's move on to the next one.
what's that? Are you hungry?
Did I forget to mention you can make a burger out of these things?
I was gonna say, that's their version of burgers. I
Sandwich. Well, it might as well be a burger.
guess. Yeah.
You'll see these in some places. I don't know how popular they are, but from my research, you can find them in a few places, I guess. But yeah, that's just what you could do with a bratwurst. Let's talk about more food, shall we? Who likes cheese?
There's like hundreds of different kinds of cheeses out there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I know, Wisconsin, known for its cheese. But yeah, but they have different types of cheese. They have cheddar cheese. They have Swiss cheese. They have a bunch of cheese from different types of culture. Yeah. So yeah, and the reason why you'll find a lot of cheese in Wisconsin is because they are one of the top dairy producers.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, not so much.
No problem.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine. No, I'm like that. Like that.
So let's move on to the next
I
one.
like cheese.
Like cheese.
What's your favorite?
My favorite
Yep.
Cheese is
I like
good for
brie.
you.
Brie?
cheese. Yeah, I like a baked brie.
That's fair.
Yeah, brie or, white cheddar is always good.
You'll more likely find that here.
Yeah, white cheddar.
Who wants dessert?
Yummy.
These are cream puffs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they have this like bread-like crust on the bottom, and then you have a lot of cream in the middle. Once again, when people came to Wisconsin, they brought with them their traditions and their cuisines. One of them was cream puffs. So because they are one of the top producers of dairy,
You get what we
you'll find a lot of cream puffs.
You get what we do. College football.
Yeah, I think we already went over that one.
Oh, he said college football.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
I heard what he said.
Sorry.
It's all right. So let's talk about some famous people.
Oh.
Recognize him?
Oh, that's
Yay, factory.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah, Willy Wonka himself.
Go back to my back.
Yeah, so this is Gene Wilder who played Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Yay, factory.
Yep. He's
I like that girl that's suffocating.
You might think of
Yep. So Gene Wilder is from Wisconsin. He's well known for playing a lot of comedy roles, especially in certain Mel Brooks movies.
Young
Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
That's him on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yep, that's one person. Let's talk about another. Recognize this man? You might have heard of his name, Harry Houdini, the infamous escape artist. So there he is. Oh, by the way, those are chains around his wrists. He's about to escape.
Oh.
Yeah, but Harry Houdini is not his real name.
Yeah.
I repeat, that is not his real name. That's his stage name. His real name was Eric Weiss. He was a European Jewish immigrant who came to the U.S. and settled in Wisconsin, and he got to start following around a bunch of circus people and learning the art of, well, escape art. And so from then on, he became well known for some of his most dangerous escape stunts. a lot of which included him being submerged in water. And he nearly drowned on numerous occasions. So do
Yeah.
not try this at home. Let's move on to another. Recognize him?
No.
His name is Orson Welles.
Ah, God, you're right.
He's a famous filmmaker. He's also probably well known as the guy who made the radio drama The War of the Worlds, based on a novel by H.G. Wells. So if you heard about this funny little story, funny, I say loosely, because people really did think aliens were invading Earth in this little radio drama because it sounded so real. So there were like these supposed alien ships coming to Earth, Martians taking over entire cities. People actually did panic. So yeah, funny, not so funny scenario, but yeah, he's pretty well known as a pioneer in filmmaking, even if I don't enjoy his movies, as Gretchen and I might have talked about. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his movies, but you know what? He laid the groundwork for some movies. Probably best known for movies like Citizen Kane, for example. Has anyone seen Citizen Kane?
No.
Nope. Well, supposedly it is the greatest movie ever made. I saw it, and I have my opinions. So let's move on to the next slide. So this is an actual news article from War of the Worlds. Radio listeners in panic, taking war drama as fact. Many flee homes to escape quote-unquote gas raid from Mars. Phone calls swamp police at broadcast at Wells Fantasy. Yes, people, this panic really did happen. And there even was a disclaimer in the beginning of the radio show. This is not real. This is just fictional drama. But many people did not hear the first part of the radio drama, and they just assumed that aliens actually were taking over the Earth. Yeah, so yeah. It's just, it sounds silly to you, but back then it was plenty real. Plenty real back in 1938. So let's talk about Milwaukee. So here's a map of Wisconsin. So you'll notice something. Most people live in Milwaukee, largest city. Not many people live in Madison. And you have these smaller populations dispersed everywhere, including, yes, people, Green Bay. I know some of us are not fans of Green Bay. And here I thought we had it out of our system.
You okay, Jenny? Hey.
All right. So as of 2019, 5 million people live in Wisconsin.
Oh, man.
And so the most common ancestry is German, Polish, Norwegian, English, and yes, Laura, Irish.
Yay!
So yeah, those are some of the more common ancestries. So let's conclude today's class. You guys ready to conclude today's class?
Oh, there's your license plate.
Here's my license plate.
ABC, baby.
Oh.
This is not a real license plate. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
NBC.
So you'll see Wisconsin, you'll see the sun, a farm, and America's Dairyland written on the bottom. So ladies and gentlemen, Wisconsin has a long history of being a progressive place for a traditionalist region. So if you ever go to Wisconsin, try their cheese, try their foods, and please be open-minded to their sports teams. No? What do you mean no? What do you mean what? You tell me what. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me in today's class. I'll see you on the road. And I'm looking at the chat from Marlena. She says she misses all of you guys. Yeah, and she says, good job to me. Yeah, thank you, Marlena. And there's an Flying saucer.
What?
Oh,
Yeah.
she's referencing the War of the Worlds aliens. If you look right here,
Miss Marlena.
if you look right here on the chat,
Good.
flying saucer.
Oh my
Reference
God.
to aliens.
Hi, Marlena.
Hi, Marlena. And she says hi back.
Hi.
So-
We'll turn it around and everyone can say hi. Hi, Marlena. She's chatting with us already.
Hello.
Hi, Marlena.
Oh, she is? I don't know.
Everybody say hi to your friends. Hi, friends.
Hi, Marlena. Says I miss you all. Miss you guys. She sends hugs. All right, ready, Gretchen, for
Yeah, I was
reading?
looking at the little things.
Reading to Marlena.
You're reading to
Everyone's gonna
Marlena.
be happy to see you.
Okay, hi everyone. Here we are. I guess Grace left off on page 199. The news of Serena's arrival on Bird Lake had finally reached the head man in charge of birds. He went out to look at her and was delighted. Then he gave an order to one of his keepers. See to it that she is pinioned this morning, right? Right away, before she flies off and leaves us.
I saw you, bro.
That swan is a valuable bird. Make sure she doesn't get away. Lewis was just waking up from his nap when he saw two keepers approaching Serena, who was standing on the shore near the oriental fence. One keeper carried a large net with a long handle. The other carried surgical instruments. They were sneaking up on Serena from behind, very slowly and quietly. Lewis knew right away what they were up to. He grew hot with rage. If those men succeeded in catching Serena and cutting a wing trap, all his plans would go wrong. She could never fly away to a lonely lake with him. She would have to remain in Philadelphia the rest of her life. A horrible fate. This is my moment, thought Lewis. Nobody is going to clip my love's wing while I'm around. Excuse me. He hustled over to the island and stripped for action. He chucked his trumpet and all his other stuff under a willow tree. Then he returned to the water and waited for the right time to attack. Hey, everyone, shh, quiet, please. Okay, the keeper holding the net was crawling quietly up on Serena's from the rear. She did not notice him. She was just standing there, dreaming of Lewis. Slowly and slowly, the keeper raised his net. As he did so, Lewis went into action, lowering his long, powerful neck until it pointed straight in front of him like a lance. He streaked across the water straight at the keeper, his wings beating in the air. His feet beating the water. In a flash, he reached the scene and drove his strong bill straight into the seat of the man's pants. Wow. Okay. It was a well-aimed jab. The keeper doubled up in pain and dropped the net. The other keeper tried to grab Serena by her throat. Lewis beat him over the head with his wings, striking terrific blows and knocking the poor fellow off his feet. Surgical instruments bounced in the air. The net fell into the water. One keeper groaned and held his hand up on his behind, where he had been stabbed. The other keeper lay on the ground, almost knocked out. Whew. Serena slipped quickly into the water and glided gracefully away, and Lewis followed. He motioned for her to stay on the lake, then raced back to the island, grabbed his trumpet, his slate, his chalk pencil, his medal, and his money bag. Flew over to the balustrade and walked boldly into the birdhouse. He was still mad. He went straight to the office of the head of the man in charge of the bird. He rapped on the door. "Come in," said a voice. Lewis entered. The head man was seated at the desk. "Hello, Lewis." "Coo-hoo!" replied Lewis through his trumpet. "What's on your mind?" Lewis placed his trumpet on the floor and took his slate and chalk pencil from a stock. "I'm in love," he wrote. The head man leaned back in his chair and put his hands behind his head. His face had a faraway look. He gazed out the window for a moment in silence. "Well, it's natural that you're in love. You're young, you're talented. In a couple of months, spring will be here. All the birds fall in love in springtime. I suppose you're in love with one of my young swans." Serena. Oh, cuckoo! "Serena," wrote Lewis. "She arrived the day before yesterday. I used to know her slightly back in Montana. She loves me too." Okay, let me see. That doesn't surprise me," said the head man.
Oh, man.
"You're a very unusual young cob. Any young female swan would fall for you. You're a great trumpeter, one of the best. I'm delighted to hear about this love affair. You and your bride can stay right here on Bird Lake and just 1 minute.
Okay.
And raise your family in comfort and safety in the oldest zoo in the United States." Lewis shook his head. "I have other plans," he wrote. Then he set his slate down and raised his trumpet. "They say that falling in love is wonderful." It was an old song by Irving Berlin. I know that guy. The room was filled with sound of love. The head man had a dreamy look in his eyes. Lewis set his horn down and took up his slate again. "I'm taking Serena away with me in a day or two," he wrote. "Oh, no, you're not," said the head man firmly. "Serena now belongs to the zoo. She is a property of the people of Philadelphia. She came here because of an act of God." "It wasn't an act of God," wrote Lewis. "It was a high wind." "Well, anyway," said the man, "she's my swan." "No, she's mine," wrote Lewis. "She's mine by reason of the power of love, the greatest force on earth." The head man became thoughtful. "You can't take Serena from the zoo. She will never fly again. My keepers clipped one of her wings a few minutes ago." "They tried to," wrote Lewis, "but I beat them up." The head man looked surprised. "Was it a good fight?" "It was a fair fight," replied Lewis. Laura? Wait, I lost my place. "It was a fair fight," replied Lewis. "They were sneaking up on her from behind. So I sneaked up on them from behind. They hardly knew what hit them. It just kind of sprung on me.
Yeah, you got it, girl. Just read for like 5 more minutes.
No, but if you finish it,
You got it. You got it.
okay.
5 more minutes.
All right, if I know more ahead of time, man, I just got to buy it. Okay. The head man chuckled. I wish I'd seen it, he said. But look here, Lewis. You've got to realize the position I'm in. I have a duty to the people of Philadelphia. Within the last couple of months, I've acquired 2 rare birds by accident, you and Serena, 2 trumpeter swans. One arrived here blown by the gale, the other to keep a nightclub engagement. The whole business is most unusual for a zoo. I have my responsibility to the public, and it is my duty as head man in charge of birds to see that Serena stays. Yourself, of course, are free to leave when you want to, because Mr. Lucas insisted that you remain free when we arrange for your Sunday concerts. But in Serena's case, well, Lewis, she's got to have her left wing tipped, amputated. The zoo can't afford to use a young, beautiful, valuable trumpeter swan just because you happen to be in love. Besides, I think you're making a great mistake. If you and Serena stay here, you'll be safe. You'll have no enemies. You have no worries about your children. No fox, no otter, no coyote will ever attack you with the intent to kill. You'll never go hungry. You'll never get shot. You'll never die of lead poisoning from eating shotgun pellets that are at the bottom of all the natural lakes and ponds. Your syngates will be hatched each spring and will live a long life in perfect ease and comfort. What more can a young cob ask? Freedom, replied Lewis on his slate. Safety is all well and good. I prefer freedom. With that, he picked up his trumpet and played, Button Up Your Overcoat When the Wind Blows Free. The headman smiled. He knew just what Lewis meant. For a while, the 2 remained silent. Lewis put his trumpet aside, then he wrote, I ask 2 favors. First, put off the operation on Serena until after Christmas. I'll guarantee she won't try to escape. Second, let me send a telegram. Okay, Lewis, replied the head man, and as he handed Lewis a sheet of paper and a pencil, Lewis wrote out a telegram to Sam Beaver. It says, am in the Philadelphia Zoo. This is an emergency. Come at once. I will pay your plane fare. Am now wealthy. Signed, Lewis. He handed the telegram to the head man along with $4 from his money bag. The head man was astounded. In all his days at the zoo, this was the first time one of his birds had asked him to send a telegram. And of course, he didn't know who Sam Beaver was, but he sent the wire and ordered his keepers to let Serena alone for a few days, which they were glad to do. Lewis thanked him and left. He returned to Serena, and they spent the day happily together, bathing, swimming, eating, drinking, and showing each other in 1,000 small ways how much they loved each other. I think I can stop that there.
So the end of the chapter?
Not the chapter, but the end of the scene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Very good.